One of the largest storms of the year is coming to the United States. This storm will bring the threat for severe weather, including tornadoes. Additionally, we could see one of the first snowstorms of the fall and an Arctic blast before November is over. So in this forecast, we're going to break down everything that you need to know ahead of these storms. But let's begin with what's happening across the United States in terms of the weather pattern and what is ahead over the next several days with that large storm that's on the horizon. And right now, there's some really weird things that are happening in the jet stream that are not overly typical for this time of the year, but we do have an El Nino pattern that's starting to aid a subtropical jet down here to the south. And this is an interesting little feature that we have. We've had a subtropical jet in the southern tier of the United States for quite some time. Our polar jet stream is all the way back up here to the north, and that's one of the biggest things that we have ongoing right now in November is that our temperatures have been well above average, and that is mainly because of the fact the polar jet stream is nowhere to be found really in the United States, the exception being the northeast. But things are definitely going to change over the next several days. They'll definitely alter the weather pattern, especially as we get closer to Thanksgiving. So notice as we go into Sunday night into Monday, we are going to have a deepening low. This is your low pressure system. It's actually going to be moving west to east, so from California into the Rocky Mountains and eventually into parts of the central and southern plains. Really important detail there because this is not coming from the north, so we're actually not going to see an Arctic blast out of this particular storm. However, there will be a cold front associated, so there will be some sort of cool down, but it's not going to be huge by any means. That's what I'm kind of getting at here. Once we go into Tuesday, though, this is when we're going to have to really watch this storm closely. Is Monday into Tuesday, this time frame, we're going to have a very strong southwesterly flow across parts of the Mississippi Valley, and this is honestly concerning because of the potential that we could see some severe weather across this region during this time frame, primarily from Monday afternoon into the evening and as well as into Tuesday morning. That would be the best shot for severe weather, and the jet stream unfortunately is going to have a strong southwesterly flow, so that is going to be something to watch for those that are in the Gulf Coast region or back into the Mississippi Valley. Monitor the weather very closely for both Monday and as well as Tuesday morning, because those will be time frames to watch for some severe weather. Once we go into Wednesday into Thursday, that moves off to the east, but what we'll have to watch for as we go into this upcoming weekend is a potential Arctic blast, and this would be associated with another deepening low. We very well could see a pretty big shot of cold air out of this system, and this again would be the polar jet stream. By around Friday into Saturday, we very well could see a pretty good shot of cold air across much of the United States, and I'll show you which areas would have the best chance of that here in just a few minutes. Let's first talk more about what's upcoming in the next few days with that large storm, and this is the low-level jet. This gives us an idea of the low-level rotation basically that's going to be available for some of these supercells. It gives more spin in those supercells to potentially produce tornadoes in some instances, and we can also see the circulation here of this low pressure system as we go into Monday afternoon around noontime. And notice the circulation, a southwesterly flow just down to the southeast of the low, and that's where we're going to be watching for that severe weather potential on Monday and as well as Tuesday. The low-level jet, by the way, could get as strong as 40 to 55 knots, which would be plenty for at least a few tornadoes across parts of the Mississippi Valley and as well as the Dixie Alley. Even going into Tuesday, we have a very strong southerly and almost a southwesterly flow even then, but I think as we go into Tuesday, we're not going to have as much of a favorable environment, so I don't think the tornado risk or really even the severe weather risk in general will nearly be as high as what we're probably going to see going into Monday night. So just for reference there, but definitely still a pretty strong low pressure system. And if you have any plans to travel by airplane or if you're even traveling by vehicle, there will be a very strong wind here. This is going to be going southwest to northeast, so if you have an airplane going this direction, you might experience a lot of turbulence with those winds, especially in the upper levels, if like 10 to 20,000 feet off the ground. All right, let's talk more about the severe weather potential for the next several days, and we'll begin with tomorrow. There actually is a marginal threat of severe weather across parts of Oklahoma, but this was initially a slight risk of severe weather a couple of days ago. This actually has gradually gotten downgraded and also has gotten smaller. It used to include Texas, now it only includes Oklahoma. Overall, I'm not really concerned about Sunday. I don't think we're going to see anything that crazy. Maybe some large hail, maybe some damaging winds, but it's going to be a low threat. It's going to be very isolated. What I'm way more concerned about right now is Monday, especially during the nighttime hours when the sun is already set. We could see the potential for some nocturnal tornadoes across parts of the Mississippi Valley, since we will have a strong enough low-level jet, enough shear, and a pretty primed environment when it comes to the dew points and some instability as well in the atmosphere. So right now, there is a slight risk of severe weather from southern Arkansas back through central and southern Mississippi into parts of central and northern Louisiana, and as well as eastern Texas, there's also a marginal threat surrounding this area. I wouldn't be surprised if this got expanded a little bit further off to the north, but it probably wouldn't be anything that dramatic in terms of that marginal threat. We very well could see some sort of enhanced risk of severe weather out of this down the road if confidence grows, especially in that tornado risk, which I am personally the most concerned about right now, since this will be a nighttime threat. Make sure you have a weather radio on hand. If you don't have a weather radio, there will be links at the top of the description to get one. I can't recommend a weather radio enough, especially since this is going to likely be more of a nighttime threat for many of you that are across parts of the Mississippi Valley. All right, let's talk more about the timing. We're going to begin with Sunday's severe weather event, which will be pretty minimal overall. But one of the best things about this is that there will be rain ahead of this. This is going into Sunday morning around 7 in the morning. Notice some showers, maybe some very isolated storms out there during the morning. All this rainfall, though, is very beneficial because it's going to basically create sinking air. And when we see sinking air, that prevents a lot of storms from developing. And since we're going to see so much rain over this time frame, it's going to be hard for any major storms to develop. We very well might see some storms develop near the Red River around lunchtime or so, but I don't think we're going to see anything too significant. I think most storms will be on the strong side, if that. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of severe weather on Sunday. Going into the evening hours and eventually into the overnight hours, this is right around midnight, going to Monday morning, this is the area that I'd be watching for across Oklahoma, hence the marginal threat. That's where we might see a little bit more storm activity bubble up as we go into the overnight hours with some large hail and damaging winds. So good thing to protect your vehicle across those areas. And then eventually heading into Monday afternoon, we will have to watch the Mississippi Valley very closely. One of the reasons that we'll have to watch it very closely is because we might see rain even out in front of it, which might stabilize the atmosphere some as well, which actually could limit the tornado threat a bit and overall the severe weather threat. So keep that in mind, but obviously make sure you're prepared either way. Here's the timing across the southeast. This is right around approximately 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right now, we're watching for storms to probably develop around Arkansas and East Texas during this time frame. By the time dinner arrives, we're going to be watching for storms across much of Arkansas, back through Louisiana, and as well as into southeast Texas. Eventually, going closer to midnight, storms are rolling across Mississippi and Louisiana. If we see more of a linear line of storms develop out of this, that would be more of a damaging wind concern over a tornado threat as we go into the overnight hours. So that would be a little bit better of news, but obviously still concerning because damaging winds, especially if they're even scattered, could knock down trees. And obviously, you're going to want to be on the bottom floor if there was to be something like that across this region. By the time we go to 3 to 6 in the morning, storms are still ongoing across Alabama, back through Louisiana. Severe weather is overall going to be a lower threat as we go into Tuesday. There will probably at least be some severe weather across parts of Alabama, Georgia, maybe the Florida Panhandle, but I think it's going to be way more isolated in nature by then. All right, let's talk more about the future across the United States because there will be some other things to watch. Again, this is that huge storm. And again, this is one of the largest storms that we've seen all year. It's stretching from almost Mexico back into Canada. It's a huge storm. Once we go to Wednesday, we might be watching for some snowfall in northern New England, but as we go into the upcoming weekend, we will likely have another shot of some showers, maybe some storms across the southern plains, but also the potential for some snowfall across the central plains and back through the Midwest. This will also, behind it, bring a huge cool down. We are going to see a lot of cold air advection, and what that'll do is, again, cool down much of the country, and this very easily could be some sort of Arctic blast. And here are the temperature anomalies for the next several days. Again, well above average temperatures for most of the country. By Monday into Tuesday, there will be a cold front cooling many areas in the southern plains back down to normal, if not just below normal temperatures. But again, we will likely see some sort of cold blast or Arctic blast by next weekend. That'll bring a lot of colder air. Will it impact parts of the southern plains? It's a bit of a question mark still since we're over 7 days out, but keep in mind, things will possibly change as we get closer. But this is definitely looking more likely than not. It would be very crazy, though, if we saw temperatures 30 degrees below normal. So stay tuned. Things will change a little bit. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and we'll keep you posted with the latest.